What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Speaking Nerd podcast, where we talk about all things nerdy. And today, me and Marvel are here once again, just by ourselves, without the other crew. And that's how we like it. We don't like those two.
You know?
But today, we're talking about kind of a sad thing that happened. The voice of Spider-Man of the '60s show, Paul Soles, has passed away. Unfortunately, last week, I believe. I think he was 90 or so.
Mm,
And we're just going to kind of talk about what he's been in, his career highlights. Definitely about the Spider-Man show, because I think that it was definitely close to my heart. I know it was something that you really liked too, Marvel.
I did, yeah.
Um, it was definitely a part of my childhood for, I would say, the first 10 years of my life. It was mainly that TV show.
Yeah.
And it was mainly because my dad, that was his generation. He had just been born when that show came out. So he used to tell me stories of him jumping on the couches and trying to be Spider-Man when he was a little kid. And so he kind of introduced me to that show. So we'll get around to talking about favorite episodes and its legacy and all that. So Marvel, do you want to kind of start off with maybe your relationship with the show?
Yeah. Well, actually, I just wanted to kind of go over Paul Souls just a little
Oh
bit,
yeah, let's do that first.
and just say that even though Paul Souls, he's had a very long career, and some of those highlights being besides Spider-Man, he voiced some characters in the Marvel superhero show, like I think Bruce Banner and Rick Jones. I remember seeing,
Mhm.
and one fact that I was surprised to learn is that he was the voice of Hermie the Elf in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I don't know if you knew that or not, but
I did not know that. That's cool.
yeah. Yeah, he was born August 11th, 1930, and he just died last Thursday. And it was literally right after we shot the podcast that day. I
I
learned, and
know.
it tore me up inside because it, he to me he's one of like the definitive voices of Spider-Man, especially for that era.
Yeah.
And when it comes to my memories of the show, the first time I ever watched it was actually thanks to the 90s show, because
Mhm.
back then they had these kind of VHS compilations, DVDs and such of episodes. And
Mhm.
one of the bonus features was an episode of the '60s show, which was actually his origin story. And to prep for this video, I actually went back and rewatched it, and it actually like really holds up as you know, telling that origin story, to a T. Like it's pretty faithful to the comic, and yeah. But what about you? What would you say is your first experience with the show?
I remember when I was a young kid, my dad had like a 3 episode DVD set,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't remember I think the one episode had Vulture. Um, it had something to do with, in New York City there was a clock tower and Vulture was like terrorizing it or something,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, so it was just about, it mainly revolved around that, and J. Jonah Jameson had a part in the story as well. But it's hard to remember. I haven't seen the show in a long time. But I will say that one of my favorite episodes that really made me love that show was, do you remember the Electro episode?
Oh yes. Yeah.
That was that was my jam, as they say, back like 10 years ago. That was what I watched. I was like, "Dad, put on the '60s show," and he would put that episode on. So, it was just like, I love the atmosphere of the rain. It was kind of a thunderstorm out, and it took place in like this house. I think it was a house. Um, and it was just kind of, I think it was Spider-Man trying to find where Electro was, if I'm remembering correctly. I might be remembering it totally wrong because I'm
Yeah.
Italian and Italians tend to do that. But but yeah, so that was my introduction to the show, was my dad, and that was definitely my favorite episode. I'm sure there's other ones that, I mean, I've seen the whole series, but again, it's been so long. I need to go back and rewatch it. Um, I think It's on Disney Plus, is it not?
I don't think it is, which is it's kind of a shame, but
Mm.
um, I mean, if uh, the only real ways to watch it, from what I remember, is they have a box set for the entire series, which is really hard to come by, and I've been looking for one for a long time, and I still haven't found it. Like,
Well, I'm gonna look for one,
yeah,
and if I find two, I will send you one.
yeah, thank you.
But another fun fact that you probably knew is that he was from Canada, which
Actually, I did not know
wasn't
that.
he? Yeah, he's
He was.
Canadian.
Yeah, he was. I just learned that a few days ago when I was trying to find some research for the show and also him. And yeah, it
Hmm.
was surprising to learn that because I mean, usually when they cast these iconic characters, usually they go for Americans or sometimes even
Or
Brits.
English guys.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess even Brits for these characters, but rarely do you
Oh
find
yeah.
like Canadian cast superheroes.
Well, it's funny that you say that, especially about Spider-Man, because I mean, two of the most well-known Spider-Man are British actors, Tom Holland and Andrew Garfield. They're
Yeah.
both from England.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we've only really, in a mainstream movie, we've only had one American,
That's
which is
true.
Tobey Maguire.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. Yeah, and a lot of who else is British? Um, Benedict Cumberbatch is British. I mean, just
Yeah.
all these guys. Henry Cavill. So yeah,
Christian Bale.
you're totally
Yeah.
Christian Bale. Yeah, and he probably had the best, fakest American accent ever. I
Mm-hmm.
did not know he was English. I listened to an interview, and I went, Christian Bale's British. I've been living a lie.
Yeah. I mean,
But yeah.
even Wolverine. Like, they got an
Oh my
Australian to
God,
play
that's
him.
right.
They got an
And
Australian to play a Canadian,
and
which
actually, yeah, Joker too. Heath Ledger, Australian.
that's right. Yeah.
Super interesting. But yeah, it is weird that they cast him, but it's it's so good that they did because um I mean his voice is so iconic. I mean, when I hear him, I know it's him.
Yeah.
Because of the TV show, of course, but still, I mean, it's not unrecognizable. It's so distinct,
Yeah.
especially if you're a fan of the '60s show.
Yeah.
Just like, oh,
I was about to say that too, because I mean, even in comparison to the other shows, like the other voice actors, usually like with Paul Souls, like he made a distinction between his Peter Parker voice and his Spider-Man voice, which I found. I mean, it's interesting, and you don't really see that a whole lot with more modern adaptations. His Peter Parker was kind of like the typical kind of wallflower nerd type character, but then when he would turn
yeah.
into Spider-Man, like he was like very kind of some like very similar to like Superman, like a very kind of heroic tone, and um, you know, yeah, it's
He was like that classic kind of. He kind of embodied that superhero uh, persona. I think, like
mm-hmm,
you said, Superman. It's kind of that energy that comes off of them. You feel like
mm-hmm,
it's just the way, sort of, even their posture in the shows and the way they say things with their voice. It's very authoritative, and I love that though about the '60s show.
mm-hmm, yeah. Yeah, we'll get into things about the '60s show that we love, and maybe some things that haven't really aged too well. And but first, I just kind of wanted to mention that the premiere date.
Hmm.
So premiered September 9th, 1967, which this was really surprising to me because September 9th is my birthday. So it's just like,
Really?
yeah. So
Wow.
as if I couldn't be attached to Spider-Man even more. Um, the show lasted for 3 seasons, and man, I mean, just what a legacy it's garnered up. Like even now, like they're still referencing it now. Like even Spider Verse, like it had
Yep.
somewhat of an appearance, and you know, uh, you know, some things, kind of. I feel, it's funny in hindsight, but it kind of abstains from its legacy. It's become very like meme centric, which like I could do
I
without.
know.
Yeah,
Me too.
it was funny for
I
a
feel too.
time. But
I mean, look, the thing is too with that show is I think a lot of it has to do with the theme song as well because it was so popular.
yeah,
And it is a great theme song.
you know,
I mean, it's catchy as hell.
it's iconic
And
for
they
sure.
and it's so catchy that they put it in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, and
Spider-Man,
yeah.
Spider. Sorry.
I forgot about that. They also put it in the MCU. I don't know if you remember, but
They did.
the
Was
opening
it
for,
Homecoming or Far From Home?
I think it was Homecoming, the opening, the Marvel Studios title, which
Right.
yeah,
Which was a nice touch.
it was. I just
Anything
hope,
that brings me back to that show,
yeah.
I love.
I wish for like
But
the X-Men, like whenever they bring the X-Men and stuff in, like they use the '90s cartoon theme. I
oh
think
my
that'd be
God,
really
would
cool.
that be like a dream? I'd probably I'd start like getting giddy in the theater. Like, oh my God, the
I would
90s
too.
theme.
Yeah. Um, I guess we should get into the show a little bit more. The characters, the villains, and some other things. First, I wanted to start off with the Peters, like the side characters. So stuff like J. Jonah
Mhm.
Jameson, Aunt May, and all those type of characters. Starting with Aunt May, though, from what I remember watching, you barely see her at all.
Yeah, she's not very present in the show.
No, like I think even like Betty Brant has more of a character than Aunt May does.
It's true. And that is something that definitely lacks in a lot of things regarding Spider-Man. I think that um, the '90s show definitely had her in it more,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know if she was that much of like groundbreaking character, if you know what I mean, like very integral.
Yeah,
Um, I think that for the Spider-Man movie, she definitely was, but
yeah,
yeah, I mean, she's not very apparent in that show.
yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think back to the time which Spider-Man was like he wasn't that old. Like he was, I want to
She's
say,
only like 4 years old.
yeah, it's like something like pretty near 5 years old, and like, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot going on for him, in terms of comic books and just culturally too. Like, he's still pretty fresh in everyone's mind. Still pretty popular, but
Oh
you
yeah.
know, but I mean, if we're gonna talk about breakout characters, we got to mention J. Jonah Jameson.
I was gonna say we need to talk about him. He was, in my opinion, the spunk of that TV show.
Mm,
Um, I love J. Jonah Jameson in that show,
yeah.
and I think that's where a lot of the future iterations of Jameson came from. I mean, you can definitely see it in the '90s TV show
Oh yeah.
where they took a lot of that influence.
Mm-hmm.
And God, I know I laugh every time I see Jonah Jameson in that show.
Yeah. Yeah, every scene he pretty much steals the show for me, and
Oh yeah.
he's probably my favorite character outside of Peter in that show. But
Hmm.
um, um, I guess we should talk about villains, which for the show, they adapted a whole bunch of them pretty well. Um,
And they adapted very good ones, in
mm-hmm,
my opinion. Um, I mean, obviously I talked about Electro,
mm-hmm.
but they had Mysterio, they had Rhino, um,
Green Goblin.
Green Goblin. They had Lizard Man, as they called him back then.
Oh yeah, Lizard
But
Man.
who else did they have? Did they have
They might have had Doc
they?
Ock.
I think Doc Ock was in that show. Yeah. Um, yeah, actually, that's the first episode. Doctor Octopus.
Yeah.
Power of
Um,
Doctor Octopus.
Another thing I remember about the show is that like they had a very like since Spider-Man wasn't around too long, they had a thing where they decided to make up new villains for the show, and
Hmm.
some of them definitely like didn't really make much of an impact, but but some of it was pretty fun. Like one episode I remember in particular was this giant ice monster. Like
Oh yeah.
like the story is like it's a hot day in New York or something, and then all of a sudden this fucking ice creature just comes out of
Is it the
nowhere.
Sub-Zero guy?
I think
Is that who
so.
you're talking?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that um just bringing this up, they had what's his name? Scorpion is in the show as well.
Yes, that's
Um,
right.
which I forgot about. I'm just looking at a list here to see if I'm missing any. But yeah, Scorpion, and I completely forgot about him in that show.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so they had a really good choice of villains for
Mm-hmm.
that show, I think, for especially for the time. Spider-Man was very new.
Yeah. And another thing that I appreciate about the show is that since it was very akin to the time it was made, it was very influenced by Steve Ditko, like the art style especially. Which I mean, I
Hmm.
love I love Steve Ditko's Spider Man. So, um, and it's so weird. Like he doesn't really get a whole lot of you know interpretation in modern media. Um, which I think is kind of a shame since he's one of the co-creators of the character and
I know.
um, but I mean if
I
any of you watching are interested in that kind of thing, especially his influence, then I think this is pretty much the show for you. So um,
um I also want to add on really fast to that, to what you're saying about Steve Ditko is I think that the suit in this show is actually one of my favorite suits of Spider-Man ever. Um First off, the
yeah,
spider makes literally no sense because it has 6 legs, not 8. And I love that though, because it makes no sense.
yeah,
And I always was a sucker for the no webbing on the chest and arms because of this show. Just in this show, it worked. For some reason, there's something about it I love.
it's definitely like an interesting design, which I mean I love. Like it's simple and it works effectively well, uh, and I mean, I wish I would see it. I wish we could see it more in like modern media, like
It would
even
be
just
cool
as a
if in,
nod.
yeah, I would love to see it kind of like theoretically, let's say what's it called? No Way Home comes out, and he has like a suitcase of suits, and that one's like laying in there. That would be a great nod to the TV show.
Yeah.
Just like something like that is what all I'm saying, guys. Don't at me.
Or maybe he has like a sketch pad of costume designs and he has like that
Mm,
just as an idea. Like I would love to see something like that. Um,
yeah,
but since we mentioned that, I guess that leads into one of the issues of the show, and actually one of the things that I love most about it is, it was a very cheaply made show, and
yeah,
it was very apparent by they had a thing where they reused a lot of animation, especially for the
they
swinging
did.
scenes, like the.
Actually, sometimes it's funny. Like
It's
it actually is hilarious to
yeah,
look. You're like, didn't I see that one two episodes ago? You're just like, oh, that happened like 3 minutes ago. No big deal.
yeah. It's funny because it's just like no matter like they have like maybe 10 swinging scenes throughout the entire series, and even though like the backgrounds will change, it'll still be him just kind of going through the going through the shot, and like you said, it's more funny than anything. And um, I mean, those were probably the scenes like when I watched it back then, because they also had it on TV for a while. Like it was a very like late night thing, and that was always the
Yeah.
scenes I was looking forward to the most. Is just him swing, him like just swinging through the city, and it's the stuff that he's doing. Like it's he's basically swinging on clouds, but like it's still a pretty
Basically
like
every Spider-Man video game up until PS4 ever.
yeah.
Um,
um
I think that the thing with the animation is definitely I I, I don't know that it's a an issue for me though necessarily, because I think that it definitely adds to the originality of this show. Um, that they had to do the best they can,
Mm-hmm.
or the best they could with the cheap budget that they had.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it was cheap. I mean, imagine if they could have had like a budget of like a one of the Batman shows, one of the animated Batman shows that was out,
Yeah.
and had like a whole huge team of artists and producers. But I think the way it is definitely paved the way for everything, and I still love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there is some clunky scenes with the art and stuff. I mean, I'm looking at a picture now where Spider-Man's standing on rubble, but like it looks like he's just standing on like a normal flat ground.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I still love it.
I know.
But yeah,
I
you
love
go
it
ahead.
too. I only say it's an issue because I find like more modern age people like they might find it repetitive. The fact that he's just
Yeah,
like the fact that he like has like 5 different swinging scenes and like you said, it's more it's a budgetary thing and uh, but kids today they don't understand that shit. So
no, those kids. Back
um,
in my day, guys.
another thing that I love about Spider-Man in this show, the fact that all his problems is solved by webbing. Like literally, he'll make objects out of webs, and
I know.
it's one of the funniest things. They're the lizard episode. Like they're in like they're in a swamp, and he makes a literal boat out of webs. Like that shit's great, and
It's so comic booky. I love it.
yeah, I know.
Like,
Um, very like true, like very akin to the time, and it's a kind of like ridiculous humor that I love seeing and shit. And I kind of wish I wish modern adaptations like there's a lot that I would love to see like adapted for modern times, and that's definitely one of them for sure. Um,
me too. And I think that does harken back to what you were saying about kind of the modern generation, which is our generation, but I think we're just smarter than everyone else.
mm.
No, but it's just you got to look at it from a different perspective of like this does not need to be realistic,
No.
or at least it doesn't need to be as realistic as everyone wants it to be. Um, the the things that we're talking about, like the webbing in the boat or the animation stuff, is what makes these shows fun to watch,
Mm.
and it brings us back to childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I love watching those things, and it can be any show, but Spider-Man was there's something about Spider-Man, man, honestly, um, that just makes you love being a superhero fan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just the heart of the character. I think the heart of Spider-Man is possibly the purest superhero heart
Mm-hmm.
out of all the superheroes,
Yeah.
and that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's those things though about the shows that really, we're saying we will bring back some of this campy stuff, but it's because it's literally great. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah.
But maybe we're just a couple of boomers talking on a podcast.
Yeah, I mean you're not wrong there, but yeah, he probably like I'd say like his heart is definitely like one of the purest, and also another thing is that
Yeah,
like he's probably one of the most relatable superheroes ever. Like
he is.
he's basically the everyman, and that was
Right.
what he was created to be, and even nowadays like they still play on that, and he could be like an Avengers level badass saving the world, all that kind of shit. But like, if he doesn't pay his rent, that's pretty relatable to me. So,
Right,
um,
and that's the main difference between him and Batman is
mm-hmm.
that Batman's not very relatable on a social level. Emotionally, he's very relatable, but on a social level, he's not really relatable at all, unless you're like Donald Trump or something.
Yeah.
But but like that's the main difference, and that's something that obviously everybody knows me on the channel as the Batman diehard, but still Spider-Man is more relatable than Batman in that sense. Is like I I need to go to work every week to make some money, and so that I can pay the things I need, and so does Spider-Man. Batman doesn't have to do that.
Mhm.
Um,
On that note,
and
be sure to check out our Spider-Man videos, which you can find on
yes,
the Caught Up
we did a
Doc.
few of them. We did an awesome, the greatest on YouTube, guys. It has 6 million views already.
Yeah.
A costume ranking of Spider-Man. So go check it out. Click that bell notification. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff.
Yeah. Anyway,
Uh,
back
yeah,
to what
at
you were
this point, I'm
saying.
just being every YouTube blogger ever. But yeah. So Spider-Man, everyman, like you were saying, he is the everyman.
Yeah. So so where would you put this on the hierarchy of Spider-Man cartoons? Like in your personal list, where would you fit this compared to the other Spider-Man shows?
Okay, so I'm gonna only go off of a few of the Spider. I know there's a lot. There's been a lot of different, you know, Spider-Man shows, and also Spider-Man features where
Mm-hmm.
he's like on another show or something. But I'm gonna go strictly off of these couple shows. I'm gonna go off this show, Spectacular, um, the '90s, Ultimate, and um, I guess Unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
So I would rank this one probably. Look, Ultimate Spider-Man's the last one. There's no question there. So I would say my favorite Spider-Man TV show altogether is the '90s one. Even
Same.
though Spectacular is still such an incredible show story-wise, it's really, really kind of perfect. But I think it would go the '90s show, and to be honest with you, then this show, and then Spectacular,
Wow.
and then Unlimited, and then Super Friends or whatever the fuck, and then, and then Ultimate is last. But the show just for me, it like I don't know. I think Spectacular is better, technically better than it. But this show, I get more joy watching this show for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, out of better or worse, I think Spectacular is better. But this show just, I it like hits me on a different level.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I think for me, I mean, the 90s show is on top. Like, there's
Yeah,
no doubt in my mind about that.
yeah.
And then I'd say Spectacular is probably like second place. Like, I love the
Mm-hmm.
show. Like, I
I
probably,
quit. Fuck
I
you. I'm
like,
out. No, I'm just kidding.
I binged it like 3 times in the last year and a half. Like, I love it so much. And,
Yeah,
um,
it's unbeatable. I think.
yeah.
Apart from the '90s, of course.
And then I think I think I'd say third is this show, like the 60 show.
Yeah.
Like
So
this
so we're pretty
and
close.
yeah, this and the new animated series, like the Neil Patrick Harris. Like I go back and forth on all these fucking shows cuz
Oh, that's true. The Neil Patrick Harris one is really good. I forgot about that one. How I forgot about it, you may ask.
it's,
I'm a, I don't know.
that
I
doesn't
don't know.
surprise me that you forgot about it because not a lot of people remember it. So um and then who cares about Ultimate in 2017? Like who really gives a shit?
Oh, dude, the new animated series was fucking awesome. Now I'm remembering.
Yeah.
I would put that probably. It would probably be right after Spectacular on
Mm,
my list.
yeah.
That show was so good, and I know that they're doing a fan season too. If you heard about that.
I can't wait for that, honestly.
Me too, dude. I'm so excited. They should have never canceled that show. It was so good,
I know.
and it was so fresh. Like it was so different.
Yeah,
But
just like
yeah,
the
go ahead.
60 show, it's very like distinct
Mm-hmm.
among Spider-Man cartoons and uh, yeah, and then like I said, who gives a shit about Ultimate and Marvel Spider-Man, which I still hate that name.
I know. It's just Spider-Man, man.
Yeah.
Like, stop.
It's so weird because when people talk about Marvel Spider-Man, usually they talk about the game, So when you say that, it's just
Right.
like, do you mean the cartoon or the game? It's like, obviously, I'm talking
And
about
I'm like, the game. Like, why the fuck would I be saying anything about the cartoon?
nobody watches the cartoon.
I
Um,
know.
um,
Unless you're like such a Marvel fanboy. Not a Marvel, a Disney fanboy. I'm sorry.
yeah,
You're like, everything is good, man. Everything is good.
yeah. Watch the
Marvel
'90s show and
Spider-Man.
then come back to me afterwards. And
I know. Knowing those people, they'll probably be like, dude, the '90s show is so overrated.
he's so it's like you dumb as fuck. Like, I'm sorry. Like I don't really harp on people's opinions
No,
but
I
when you're
mean, I don't
putting
care if they like
but
the
when you're
show, but
putting
like,
Marvel Spider-Man the TV series over the '90s one, I'm just like I gotta put my foot down and just be like no, like
yeah, you gotta
that's
be like,
that's wrong.
dude, I respect your opinion, but that is a bad opinion. It's a very bad opinion. It's not wrong opinion. I mean, it's an opinion, so it's not wrong, but it's wrong.
True. Um.
So yeah, we're just a couple of fucking boomers. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah. We're too old.
I'm cutting on us now. Why am I destroying us?
We're getting too old for this shit.
Oh God, since January, it's too much for me. Oh man. All right,
um.
so what's your next? What's your next
Um.
route? Where are we going?
I guess. I guess. Like. I mean, we kind of talked about its legacy, sort of. Its
Yeah.
its influence on other Spider-Man cartoons and even just in media, having probably one of the most iconic theme songs of all time, and
Mm.
they're still referencing it to this day. Like I mentioned, that end credit scene for Spider Verse, like I mean, it's funny, but yeah, I mean, I hope like even as new adaptations come out, like I'm hoping that this one is not forgotten, and
Mm.
it left such a mark on the character, and it'd be a shame if people forgot about it, and because at the end of the day, there's for as as cheap as it is, and there's so much to appreciate. Yeah, not only just as a cartoon, but also as like a Spider-Man series. So, um,
Mhm.
but um, but yeah. Thank you, Paul Souls, and all the people involved. You made our childhoods, and it will not be forgotten in our eyes because we're boomers. But that's pretty much it. I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to chime in before
I
we
just wanted to say, Paul Souls will be missed. But his legacy will live on, and rest in peace to him because he was a huge part of the evolution of Spider-Man
yeah.
in TV and film. So he'll be missed, but never forgotten by any Spider-Man fan ever,
Mm-hmm.
or pop culture. He will never be forgotten.
No. Yeah, so if you're wondering what to watch next for your Spider-Man binge, it's like why not check out the '60s cartoon and have a fun time, get some friends together, and you know have a laugh, and
Hmm.
you know. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the podcast. This week has kind of been hectic in terms of the podcast because I mean, you're not going to be here for a little bit, and AJ he wasn't here, so we had to make do without him, and
Well, that's easy to do. No, I'm
yeah.
just kidding. I'm
like
sorry, AJ.
like we said, we don't care about the others. It's more of a contract thing. That they're
Yeah.
here for like another 6 months.
Yeah, we only
That's
got
it.
a little bit left, and the contract expires, and then it's me and Marvel again.
Yeah. So, is there anything you'd like to tell the audience that you're working on, or just whatever you're doing? Like, um,
Well, still working on that Batman video.
yeah.
That's literally what I gotta say. Um, I'm trying to figure out a way to kind of better edit it on my MacBook now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I gotta just try and do it right
Mm-hmm.
because originally, obviously, I was on my phone.
Right.
So, But yeah, this MacBook should make it totally easy, or a lot easier. So yeah, that's really the plan, and hopefully it's a long video, not like over an hour, but maybe 45 minutes long. And yeah, I'm looking forward to releasing it. I hope that it does well. Let's hope it gets a lot of views and it gets people thinking about the psychology of that rich motherfucker from Gotham City.
The crazy asshole.
Yep.
I mean, I'm excited for sure. Like, I'm gonna be watching it fucking day one. You know that. So
I know you will. This is my biggest fan right here, by the way, guys. And I get to work with him every Thursday.
Yes.
And sometimes on other days, because we're just that close, and the other guys are not.
No. Just stand in. That's what it's always been with this podcast. So, anyway, for me, I got the Marvel reviews. I've been working this last week getting the sort of prep done for my next review, which I did, and just in the editing stage now. So hopefully it'll be out by the end of the month. We'll see what happens. Other than that, I got a bunch of other videos planned that I'm really excited to show you, and yeah. You know, some new stuff, maybe some other stuff, and just stuff. Let's say that. But I'm excited. I can't wait to get back into releasing videos every week, and of course we got the podcast, and whenever this video goes up, we have we're recording another one today, which might be on the card up top. It might not be. We'll see what happens. Yeah. But anyway, folks, that's going to be it from us. We'll see you next week. Or I'll see you next week because Swifty's not going to be here. So
no, I will not be here.
It'd be so sad.
I know. I'm sorry to leave you with the group of immature 12-year-olds. I'm so sorry, Mom.
If you hear that the podcast disbanded, it's not from me.
He went that far. If it gets disbanded.
Well, I know a fight's. I know a fight's gonna break out. So.
They'll be like, AJ. AJ's gonna be like, well, no, I'm the best member here. I should carry on the legacy.
Yeah.
Like, no, King. I had to say that because he hates it when I say that.
Okay. Yes, bitch. Basically. All right. That's enough. I was
gonna say let's end it before we get too roasty on the boys.
Yeah. Anyway, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. Be sure to check us out on our YouTube channels and our Twitters in the description down below. I'm always tweeting a bunch of dumb shit, and so follow me there, and also follow Swfte. And
follow this dumb motherfucker right here, me.
Because we're all dumb motherfuckers on Twitter.
Exactly.
But anyway, have a great night. Thank you all so much for watching, and don't forget to take care of yourselves. See ya.